is pertinent at the moment. Since dollarization, we've had about 10, 12 companies delisting. What is that due to? Now, there's two issues. It could be the economy, it could be listing rules. Now, how much can you accredit to either? Why are companies delisting?
I think with delistings, look, these things happen all the time. And I think they just stick out in this country in the past couple of years in the sense that it's been just delistings and no listings. Mm-hmm. But in the normal course of business, I think in any market, in any jurisdictions, companies list and delist by the day. I think that's part and parcel. Now, why do they do that? Takeovers, people want to take companies private, so maybe they don't want that sort of scrutiny of a public company and they want to go private.
Now, that's somewhat of not an indictment, but that could also be a query of your listing rules. Are they still friendly to companies for them to register?
Not necessarily listing rules. Listing rules are there for a reason, and we believe that our listing rules, I think, look, they're as good as any of it that you find out there. Okay. Because listing rules are meant to create order and protection of everyone who's using that platform. So going back to your two questions, that which is it and why we've seen so many delistings, I would say that the performance of the companies, I think for me, is the major factor. Mm-hmm. Right? The economy itself, the lack of liquidity, the fact that shares do not trade in the sort of volumes that that can be deemed as good for the market, mm-hmm. makes the issuers question whether or not the value of their shares, or rather the price assigned to their shares, is the right value. Mm-hmm. So there's always been debates that, look, I think shares in Zimbabwe are cheap. So if they are cheap, right, and so I'm not getting the value that I should be getting on an exchange, why don't I take this private? So then someone offers, or they reach the 35% threshold, and then they offer to minorities something that might seem like a good offer, and then they take it private. But the economy is also hitting us in another way, in the sense that a lot of the delistings was just due to poor performance, that the companies were not able to fulfill ongoing obligations with the exchange. Their listing levies that they pay, I think, every year, they've got to publish their results, within a prescribed time. Mm-hmm. So what you're actually finding out is that a lot of these companies are failing to meet those basic things. So this is a situation where a company has done so badly that financially is not sound, and therefore, why are you maintaining it on the exchange? The discussion that we had a little bit earlier about Zim, that maybe if there was an exchange or a platform whose requirements were not so onerous, we cannot relax listing requirements, because when a company lists on an exchange, that company should epitomize what good corporate governance is, what mm-hmm. your good company in this economy should resemble. So if you can't meet that standard, there's no, we shouldn't shy away from the fact that we shouldn't run away from us having so many delistings. But if someone can't meet that standard, I think let's delist them. So I think that's what you'll find more of, that companies are simply just failing to meet the ongoing obligations. Audited financial statements, if you actually go through our listed companies, the number of companies that have failed to publish on time, and for us, if your deadline to publish your audited financial statements is 3 months after the year end, and 6 months down the line, you've still not published, what are people trading? Based on what information do you expect people to be trading your shares on? So it's things like that then it goes on, and then there's issues with auditors and all sorts of things. And at a certain point, the exchange simply says, look, enough is enough. I think let's just, deal.